Hi, friends. Welcome to Overcome with Joe Shiro. I am your host, Joe Shiro. This show will be navigating through the trials, triumphs, and power of musical theater. We are talking to musical theater performers who have made their dreams come true of being on Broadway, in their dream show, on national tours, all of it, as they've climbed the mountain to reach their biggest dreams. And believe me, it is a hell of a climb. We are all human beings here. We all suffer heartbreak, love, joy, magic, sadness, setbacks, trauma, frustration in some way, shape, or form. We talk about staying on your path and dreams despite life's obstacles. I hope this helps you on your way up your mountain. Let's get started. On last week's episode of Overcome, we talked to former Wicked Second National Tour cast member Sarah Anne Fernandez, who was in the ensemble and understudy for Elphaba. We had a beautiful discussion about her journey to her goal to be in her dream musical, Wicked. We discussed what it was like to perform twice as the Green Girl, as well as being put in this incredible life-changing musical. This week, we are back for part two to discuss how she found herself as a 27-year-old woman and reflecting and processing the lessons she had learned on the road and what she had learned about herself going through a pandemic, how her creativity heals. Let's overcome. Wow, I had no idea that's what that show was like. Oh
Very
my
sick.
gosh.
Oh, yeah.
And to be reviewed, it is also on your website. You could see all the wonderful things they said about your performance that night, and I was so jealous. And you could take that with you, like, for the rest of your life. Like, no matter if you go back or not, it's like you still got to do your dream, and it's like we're never guaranteed
Right.
things. So the fact you
Yeah,
even got to do is just such a blessing. Now I want to get
absolutely.
into the mental, like, health aspect and
Sure.
how did you overcome, like, what personal strife or struggles, like, while you're having your dream or after getting to do that, like, what is that like? What does that look like for you? If that question makes sense.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, alpha was hard. And, I don't think I know anybody who's played Elphaba who hasn't at some point had to overcome the mental load that it is to know that you're playing this iconic character that everybody loves and everybody expects something from and knows so well and wants you to do a certain way and has favorites of that you might not be like or that you might be like but maybe not enough for some person, and that's going to probably be on the internet, and people on the internet might be really nice or they might be really not nice. And like, you you decide, well, not you decide, but you get to go on one night and you look into the audience and there's a little girl who's painted green and you're like, okay, well, what a responsibility that is, because when I was a little girl, like, Eden changed my life for me. So, it just constantly feels like such a monumental responsibility, which it is. Um, and that's not a bad thing. It just at times can be incredibly overwhelming. Um, and then it's also just a monumental mental responsibility of kind of trusting your voice and not waking up every single day and being like, can I sing today? Can I sing okay enough today? Or like finishing a show and being like, did I sing it well enough? Was I good enough? Was it this? Like, you have to at some point learn that, you know, you are enough, which is a hard lesson for anybody to learn in anything, in any field, and in anything. Um, And it's certainly one that I think Wicked helped me learn because, again, being 22 years old and given this gigantic responsibility and that being your first time ever doing anything professionally, like, I felt the pressure constantly, and I didn't even really feel it from external sources. Like, it's not like Wicked put the heat on me at all. Like, they were welcoming and they were supportive. I was putting the heat on me constantly of like, oh, well, I go to work every day and Jackie Burns, who's been doing this for 11 years, sounds amazing every single time. And Marianne Torres, who's been doing this for like 10 years, sounds amazing every single time. And Cecilia, who's been here for a year, sounds amazing every single time. But I'm still struggling. And it's like, well, Sarah, they're all older than you. And they've all been singing this exact score repeatedly for so long in a way that you haven't had the chance to do yet. So obviously, like, you're not there yet. You know, like you are 22 years old and you're navigating and you're finding your way, but and that's hindsight speaking now, like as a 27-year-old adult who now realizes that, singing is just as much mental as it is physical. And if you decide that the note's not coming out, the note's not coming out. Like if you decide that you're not going to be singing well today, you're not going to sing well today. It is such a mental game, and it's a game that I certainly played with myself while I was there, where I just expected complete inhumanity out of myself. Like I just expected to be perfect always, and that's just not the case. It's not the case for anybody. Nobody's perfect, and then it's also not the case when you're living in different climates every couple of weeks and you have incredibly sensitive like an incredibly sensitive body to allergies and everything, and everywhere you go is a different altitude and a different humidity level and a different allergen population that you have a hard time. I think for a while I really let myself mentally beat myself up, and I look back at it now and I realize that I just didn't have to do that, because there's working hard and there's holding yourself to a standard, and then there's like beating yourself up. And those two things are not mutually exclusive, even though I thought that they were. So when it comes to like overcoming, I don't think that I necessarily honestly even did that until after I left. And then I looked back at all of my habits and I was like, I didn't need to do this to myself. I didn't need to like feed into this kind of like spiral of, oh, I'm not good enough. Um, and now I feel like I approach all of my work in a very different way. And so I mean, I have no regrets. I'm glad that I learned at the scale that I learned, because they were really hard lessons, but I think that overall it affected all of my life. Like I realized that I do need to be kinder to myself. Like I don't have to be unkind to myself to achieve results. Because I did that on the biggest stage and the biggest role, and that wasn't necessarily helpful to me. And now that I'm more, forgiving and kind to myself, I perform so differently. You know? So yeah, that's definitely my biggest wicked overcome is like nobody put that on me but me, but I put it on me hard, you know? And now after the fact, just kind of realizing like you're human. You're going to try your best, and sometimes you're not always going to like be perfect. And that's actually interesting. It's actually okay.
Wow, that is what a lesson to learn from doing that huge goal of yours and that dream. And it made you coming out of that. Now that that contract's over, you can now
Right.
apply it to your 27-year-old Sarah now and be the even kinder version of yourself to yourself. You
Right.
know, it's already so hard enough, this business, and just being a human today in general is, and trying
Yes.
to connect with people, trying to connect with yourself. There's just so much, and from society, just so much pressure to try, and you just have to be yourself
Exactly.
and owning who you are, standing in your power. But it's when your anxiety is telling you all these things, its feelings are not facts. And it's just kind of
Yes.
retraining your brain of how to this no, this is not me, you
Yeah.
know, and just living life like that, just oh, you get after a while, you just get fucking sick of it. Like, I hate feeling this way. This is
Right.
how I want to like live the rest of my life. I have to retrain my mind to think something else of me, or even an action, something you do can make your day better or your week better.
Right.
You know, not all like each small steps will create a bigger picture. Even if you like, I don't know, like wash your face or something, or take a walk or call a friend and just kind of, or even just buying yourself flowers or,
Mhm.
and kind of just, you don't even have to do any of that, like the generic self care stuff to,
Right.
but it's a lot of healing your inner work, your inner child, and kind of just growing up. Like you grew up on the road, like you learned by
Yeah.
yourself being a woman on the road, and you're doing this massive job that is so like only one and only thousands of people could do what you did. And just being in this society, in this world right now is already just so fragile. And it's like, listen, the worst that like, what's the worst that can happen to me? You know, as I need to go about my day loving myself, loving who I am. I'm proud. And it took me a long while, a long time to get to even where I am right now to be like,
Right.
I own who I am. I'm like, and all the experiences that have come before me today, every bad relationship, every trial, tribulation,
Right.
it's all worth something. And I think all
Absolutely.
that today, like even all like mental health going through like PTSD, like I am who I am today because of it. You know, people, oh, I wish I was this person. I wish I would had this person's life.
Right.
I cannot think like that because it's just, my life matters to me. Like you matter,
Absolutely.
our life matters. You never know what else someone else is going through. And like even on social media, it's even more difficult now. Like back in like 2000 like 7, you just had like MySpace or whatever, but
Right.
now everyone's posting everything they do online. You have
Right.
everything. Here are all my successes. And as my friend Lisa Brescia, former Elphaba, former Heidi Hansen, she goes, social media is just moments of celebration. No one is going to show you them crying or having a nervous
Mhm.
breakdown or anxiety attack. Like no one's posting that, right? So,
No.
and that's why it's so hard right now in the social media because everyone's trying to be perfect or trying to even on
Exactly.
YouTube, even on videos. Like that's why even with like some bootlegs, it's hard, especially as an Elphaba, you could see because they didn't know they were being recorded and maybe they didn't sound great that day and like fuck it, whatever. But also like bootlegs like that, if you're comparing yourself, you know, compares despair.
Absolutely. Well, and then, I mean, even, it's like it doesn't even necessarily just come from your own mind. I mean, there are videos where there's just like 80 women and they're like, "Who's sang The End of the Wizard and I the best?" And it's like everybody in the comments, nobody can agree because the fact of the matter is, like, there is no one award for like, "Congratulations, you are the best Elphaba. We have tallied everything and it's you." It's like that's not a thing. There is no one way to quantify that. Um, Everyone's gonna be different. That's the beauty of it. Um, you
Exactly. And everyone's gonna find something even in your alphabet, like, "Oh, I connect," like, someone saw you in Denver or Portland was like, "Oh, I connect with Sarah in this level." Like, "Oh my god, this is me." And everyone feels that way when they see Wicked.
Right.
"Oh my god, that's me on stage." They're gonna connect with
Yeah,
some lyric, how you sing. And it's because, like you said in the beginning of the show, of today, that is the human experience. Art is the human experience,
absolutely.
you know, and I think everyone, especially like people comparing women, is just so like awful. Like, how about we not do that and try to just lift each other up and make everyone feel like included and loved
Right.
rather than trying to tear apart someone's like the people that are commenting, oh, well, I didn't like her. So I didn't like her end of her wizard and I didn't like her defying gravity. It's like, well, you try it. You try doing it. Like literally, and it's people in their pajamas eating Doritos, whatever. And like you they'll hide behind a keyboard. And like it's just shitty behavior, you know. I love that you're now being kind to yourself and now giving yourself that grace to, hey, I'm gonna fuck up. I'm not perfect. And finally letting go of that. What is the freedom you now feel finally letting go of perfectionism?
Well, I mean, I think like the beautiful and the hard thing about growing up is that like you do that. You grow up, like you learn. And there are times sometimes that I'm like, God, like I wish I knew this a couple years ago. Or like God, like I wish I did this a couple years ago. But the fact of the matter is like it just that comes with age, that comes with time. And like they are not kidding when they say that your brain fully develops at 25. Like, I feel like after I turned 25, I was like, I see so many things so differently. And it's not even because I've like actively tried to, I just do, you know? Um, and life, I mean, the pandemic, it just need I say more, like I just feel like after that we all look at everything differently, all in different ways, but like my whole life and my whole world certainly changed after that. And I look at people differently. I look at things differently. I look at myself differently. It's just it completely changed our perception of everything. So I'm not surprised um, that these changes, I guess, have happened for me. I feel like that's par for the course. It's just far more freeing. I feel like work is just far more enjoyable. I feel like there's just more joy in singing for me when I'm less worried about sounding perfect on every single note and more worried about what's the story I'm telling and am I having a good time? Which of course were things that I thought about then, but I feel like I was so hyper focused on what I sounded like. Whereas now I feel like that's always there. And on, bad days, that always comes up a little bit more. But usually now it's really just tell the story, have fun. It is what it is.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I feel the same thing when I turned 25. The day, July 18th, that was my birthday. That I just was like, what? I just looked at something with everything just felt lighter and
Yep.
not serious.
Everything's different. Everything's different.
Everything's different. And so, for the better, I was like, I don't care about certain things anymore.
Mhm.
Things
Oh,
that I
yeah. Well, I also just feel like I don't know. I feel like I've also kind of like what is the word I'm looking for? I've, like, become less myself-centric in that, like, people aren't thinking about you as much as you think people are thinking about you.
no, they
You
aren't.
know? Like,
Really
I mean,
aren't.
like, they're just not. And, like, not that I was, like, expecting everyone to be like, "Oh, Sarah, what is she doing now?" But no, but, like, anytime I ever fucked up even a little bit, I was like, "I bet everybody's thinking about that right now." And it's like, truthfully, the only person who's thinking about that is Sarah.
We
Nobody else remembers. Nobody else cares.
and
Everybody thinks about themselves 90% of the time and not you. So, like it just yeah, I think it's far more freeing to just kind of be like whatever. I have fully embraced just life is chaos. Just let it happen. Just let the chaos happen and have fun with it. That's all you
just
can
have
do.
fun with it. You hear that, folks? Elphaba understudy telling you live. It's life is chaotic. We're not alone in this one. Now, everyone's got their own thing going on. I mean, I love that because this quote, I mean, it's been around forever, but now I truly understand it. I am my own worst enemy. And I'm like, oh
Mhm.
no, I really am my own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Like I can't blame anyone else for my anxiety, traumas, etc. I have to do that myself and heal from that and kind of like smell the freaking Java, like wake up and smell the
Right.
macchiato and like nothing is that serious, you know?
And
And
life
that's what,
is incredibly short. I mean, that's what unfortunately we've been seeing to a incredible magnitude since like 2020. We are not promised tomorrow. We're not promised 3 hours from now, like genuinely, and it's awful. Just I feel like everything lately has just been awful. And if you let yourself watch the news for long enough, it's wildly depressing. And at least for me, it's very hard for me to kind of like move forward from even, you know, hearing about all the things that people go through. So I mean, for me, I think it just keeps it in perspective. Like it is all just so short. Like why am I worrying about things that sure they're valid, but like at the end of the day, like just choose happiness.
and just do stuff that makes you happy. Like that's why with this show I want people to know like do what makes you happy. Don't do shit that makes you feel like crap. Don't be around people who make you feel like crap. Like
No, exactly.
listen to that. Do the right thing for yourself. Don't do it. Don't please. No one's like you don't have a contract to like oh you need to hang out with this person. Oh you have to go do this obligation. It's like no, and you can step up and be like I don't want to do this, and that's okay. Like
Yeah,
I don't want to or involve your friendships around or make your boundaries and kind of be like how do I want to spend my day? Like if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
exactly.
And like when I started looking at my life and okay, what do I really want to do? Like I'm very trying to focus on my career, trying to focus on my saving the travel, what's really important to me. Like my family, my friends, like having my relationship. That's it. I don't have time. I just have no room. It's just, when you're 20, 19, you're growing and like being messy. And like,
Right.
I embrace the messiness. Like, I embraced it so much. Healing is in all of our futures. And I'm so happy that you've healed and like have come such a long way since, you know,
Well, thank you. I mean, so have you though. I mean, I think that that's beautiful. I think taking a trauma and turning it into healing for not only just yourself but for other people is like a really noble thing, and not a lot of people do that. So I think that's really awesome and lovely, and I'm so excited to see where it goes. And I'm honored to be a part of it.
so what going forward, how are you going forward now, like personally, and like what do you want to strive for? Like how are you continuing on in this life? That's such a deep question.
No, 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 but it's a good one. It's honestly one that I've been thinking about a lot. I mean, I recently, over the last maybe like year and a half, 2 years, unfortunately have just experienced like a lot of loss. Loss of both of my grandparents and one of my best friends actually. And
I'm so
it's
sorry. I'm
thank
so
you.
sorry.
No, it's been a particularly hard time. Grief is a hard thing, and it's um like especially when it's just when there's kind of no explanations for it, when it's confusing. And so, kind of like similar to what you were saying. I mean, I feel like I spent a lot of the summer just kind of sitting in grief and the grieving process, and just kind of like allowing myself to be in that and understand that. But as the fall started to come up, or rather the end of the summer, I just, like I kind of realized um, grief never goes away, but I think that, that you can make something beautiful out of something sad. And I thought a lot about it, and just kept kind of coming over and over again to this idea of like legacy, and the fact that losing both of my grandparents, and they came to this country with nothing, and they washed Ziploc bags and hung them to dry to reuse them so that we could all have the lives that we have. Like I think of my grandparents, I think like, okay, well, I am their living legacy. And when I think of my best friend, I think of, he was an actor, and how much he wanted to do and show the world, and how I feel very responsible for carrying on his legacy. And that's been a thought of mine for a while. And that all kind of culminated into I'm actually doing a solo show in March, um, that is about women in history who have had their stories told through musicals, and just kind of exploring the idea of legacy through them. I mean, I think just what became so interesting to me was just the question of like, how are we handling the legacy of women who have really existed? I mean, women who had real lives just like we have real lives. And you know, when we write these movies about them and these books about them and these musicals about them, like, are we remembering them in the most palatable way for us as a society, or are we remembering them as they really were? And like how can we even know? And like what responsibility might these writers feel, or like what responsibility might we feel consuming their stories as entertainment? Um, and so, I think it's been a weird time for me. So to be able to kind of just like create something and kind of do it, in memory of three people whose legacies are very on my heart at the moment and who are very important to me. Um, and to just kind of be creating my own work and saying what I want to say, is pretty cool. So I've been working on that. I'm pretty knee deep into that, and it's been very exciting. And I don't know. I again, grief never goes away, but I feel like there's almost a sense of like life regained in me by moving forward with a new creative project. Um, So that's kind of where I'm at. So definitely overcoming. So this podcast felt very timely, because I feel like I certainly have been that has been a theme in my life the past couple of months, past couple of years.
And you will, there's always going to be something else to persevere
Of
and
course.
power through. And I'm so excited for you for this show, and I'll leave where you could buy tickets for it. It's Monday, March 18th at 7 p.m. at Chelsea Table and Stage.
Yep.
Um, go see our girl Sarah Fernandez slaying it. And also talking about with creativity, you have also written your own music. You've released a few singles of yours,
Yeah.
a Plot Twist and a Nightmare. Do you want to talk a bit about your songwriting? I know you I know you've written some with your sister Mary. It's all on her website. You can go on Spotify, iTunes, and check it
Yeah.
out. Talk about a little bit about your writing, and did you find healing through writing, creating your own music?
No, absolutely. I mean, I kind of turned to writing during the pandemic because I just felt like, again, like I just felt like I had no creative outlet with theater being shut down. And my sister's brilliant and fabulous. She is not in the industry. She's probably smarter than me for that. Uh, but she is wildly creative and talented. And we were together for the whole pandemic. And so, like when I started writing, I would run things by her, and she would have these wonderful ideas. And she was actually like so mad that I had credited her because she was like, "No, like like you did it. Like I just helped." And I was like, "No, like I couldn't have done it without you." Um, but no, writing and producing music was really fun. It was not anything I ever thought that I would do. It was just exciting, and I do enjoy writing, and now I'm enjoying writing like in this other aspect now, like with the show, like kind of like writing the show and um, figuring that out, and I don't know, just kind of being creative. And I think post COVID, I'm putting a lot more weight into like what do I want to say, and I do love doing musicals. I do love saying what other people have told me to say, but I'm having fun figuring out what I want to say too. So
Boom. That's where we'll end it at that. Wow. Um, my gosh, Sarah, this has been such an honor. I'm
it's
so
been
glad
so
you
fun. Thank you so much for having me. The honor is mine.
the
Thank you.
first guest, people, Sarah Anne Fernandez, and you can follow her on Instagram at Sarah Anne EE17. You can find
Yes,
her on TikTok. She is a Swiftie as well.
of course.
Yes, if fun fact. Sarah, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you so much.
You're incredible. All love to you always.
And to you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're out. Bye. All right, that wraps up our first episode of Overcome. Thank you for joining us and listening to Sarah's story. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you and what you do. Follow the podcast on Instagram at Overcome with Joe Shiro and on TikTok at Overcome with Joe Shiro Pod. You can listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. See you at the next one.